Hello, viewers. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most mysterious and terrifying unsolved cases in American history. This isn't just the story of a serial killer. It's the story of a person who taunted police, toyed with newspapers, and created fear across an entire state, all while hiding in plain sight. He called himself the Zodiac. He claimed to have killed over 30 people. He sent cryptic letters and strange codes to newspapers. He threatened children, challenged detectives, and disappeared without ever being caught. Even today, we don't know who he really was. So sit back, turn the lights down low, and get ready for a chilling journey through the shadows of California's most famous unsolved case. The first murders. A killer is born. It all began quietly. On the night of December 20th, 1968, two teenagers, David Faraday, 17, and Betty Lou Jensen, 16, were out on a first date in Vallejo, California. They parked their car at a place known as a lover's lane, a quiet, dark road near Lake Herman Road. It was the kind of spot where couples would sit and talk away from the city. But that night, someone else was watching. Around 11:15 p.m., someone pulled up next to their car. What happened next was brutal and fast. David was shot in the head at close range. Betty Lou was found several feet away from the car. She had been shot 5 times in the back while trying to run. No one saw it happen. There were no witnesses, no clear fingerprints, no weapon was found. Police were shocked by the coldness of the attack, but without clues or motive, the case hit a wall. At the time, no one knew this was just the beginning. The Blue Rock Springs attack, a killer speaks on the 4th of July, 1969. About 6 months after the first murders, another couple was attacked. Darlene Farron, 22, and Michael Mageau, 19, were sitting in a parked car at Blue Rock Springs Park, just a few miles from the first murder scene. It was around midnight when a car pulled in behind them. The driver sat there for a moment, then left, only to return a few minutes later. This time, he got out. He walked up to the passenger side and, without saying a word, opened fire. Michael was shot in the face, neck, and chest, but he survived. Darlene, however, was shot multiple times and did not make it. Just 40 minutes later, a strange call was made to the Vallejo Police Department. The caller spoke calmly and clearly.
I want to report a double murder. If you go 1 mile east on Columbus Parkway to the public park, you'll find the kids in a brown car. They were shot with a 9mm Luger. I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye.
And just like that, the killer had a voice. This was no ordinary criminal. He was watching. He wanted attention. He wanted control. The first letters. This is the Zodiac speaking. A month later, in August 1969, 3 newspapers, the San Francisco Chronicle, San Francisco Examiner, and Vallejo Times-Herald, each received a letter. Each letter began the same way. This is the Zodiac speaking. This was the first time the killer gave himself a name, Zodiac. But that wasn't all. Inside the envelopes were cryptograms, strange codes made of symbols, letters, and shapes. The killer demanded the newspapers print them on the front page, or he would kill again. He wrote, "I like killing people because it's so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all." The cryptograms were signed with a strange circle and cross symbol, which would become Zodiac's mark. Newspapers published the codes. Within a week, a couple from Salinas, Donald and Betty Harden, cracked the cipher. It was chilling. It didn't give his name. It didn't give any specific reason. It just showed a twisted mind obsessed with power, mystery, and murder. Lake Berryessa attack, a costume and a knife. On September 27, 1969, Zodiac struck again, this time in broad daylight. College students Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were relaxing by Lake Berryessa, a peaceful area northeast of Napa, California. They noticed a man approaching from a distance. He was wearing a dark hood with eye holes and a chest piece that had his signature cross-circle symbol on it. In his hand, a long knife and a pre-written message on a clipboard. He tied them up and then stabbed them repeatedly. Before he left, he drew a large version of his symbol on Brian's car door and wrote the date, time, and weapon used. Cecilia died from her injuries. Brian survived. A few minutes later, the local sheriff's office received a call. "I want to report a murder." "No, a double murder. They are 2 miles north of park headquarters. I'm the one who did it." It was the same voice. Calm, cold, proud. The Presidio Heights shooting? A mistake. On October 11th, 1969, the Zodiac killed again. But this time, things were different. Paul Stein, a 29-year-old cab driver, picked up a fare in San Francisco's Presidio Heights neighborhood. His passenger told him to drive to a quiet corner. Once they arrived, the man shot Paul in the head and took his wallet and keys. He also tore off a piece of Paul's shirt. But here's where Zodiac may have slipped up. 3 teenagers across the street saw it happen. They called the police immediately and gave a description. White male, about 5 feet 8 inches, stocky build, wearing glasses. Police officers were nearby, but due to a mistake in the radio call, they were told to look for a black male suspect, and the killer walked right past them. The next day, Zodiac sent another letter to the Chronicle. Inside was a piece of Paul Stein's bloody shirt, proof that he was the killer. In the letter, he mocked the police. "I am the murderer of the taxi driver. The police shall never catch me." Fear spreads, schools, bombs, and more threats. As Zodiac's letters continued, his tone changed. He began threatening school children, saying he would shoot them as they got off the bus. He wrote about building bombs, picking random targets, and watching people panic. The police were overwhelmed. Over 2,500 suspects were investigated. Hundreds of tips came in, but Zodiac always stayed one step ahead. He sent more ciphers, some of which remain unsolved to this day. He gave police clues, but never too many. He seemed to enjoy watching the city squirm. Over the years, many suspects were questioned, but one man stood out: Arthur Lee Allen. Allen was a convicted child offender who lived in Vallejo. He owned the same type of watch that had the Zodiac symbol. He used the word Zodiac in conversations. A friend even claimed Allen admitted to wanting to kill people and taunt police with letters. Police searched his home in 1991 and found bomb-making materials, tapes about Zodiac, and writings that seemed similar to the killer's. But there was a problem. His DNA didn't match. His handwriting didn't match. He was never charged. To this day, some still believe he was the Zodiac. Others think he was just obsessed with the case. And then, silenced by the early 1970s, Zodiac's letters slowed down. He sent one in 1974 and then disappeared. There were possible sightings. Some letters came later, but experts couldn't agree if they were real. The Zodiac faded into legend. Many believe the Zodiac wasn't a man with a mental illness, but someone with high intel. Many believe the Zodiac wasn't a man with a mental illness, but someone with high intelligence, military training, and a craving for control. He watched people. He learned their patterns. And he used fear like a weapon. He hinted that the second cipher would reveal his name. That cipher, the 340 cipher, went unsolved for over 50 years. Then in December 2020, a team of codebreakers finally cracked it. The 340 cipher didn't contain his name. It said, "I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber." He mocked the police again. He claimed he was ready to die because he would be reborn in the afterlife. The message was creepy. It showed he wanted attention, not capture. And once again, he left no clear identity. There are many who believe Zodiac wasn't one person. Some think the letters after 1971 were written by a copycat trying to gain fame or cause chaos. Others think the Zodiac may have died, moved away, or been arrested for another crime. But a few believe Zodiac stopped killing because he didn't need to anymore. The attention he got from newspapers, detectives, and the public fed his ego more than murder ever could. He became famous. He controlled the story. And then, like a ghost, he faded. The 2007 film Zodiac, directed by David Fincher, is one of the most detailed and respected takes on the case. In recent years, new hope has come from an unlikely place: DNA technology. With the success of catching the Golden State Killer using genealogy databases, many hope the same could be done for Zodiac. In 2021, a group called the Case Breakers claimed they had identified Zodiac as Gary Francis Post, a man who died in 2018. They pointed to physical similarities, suspicious behavior, and even alleged letters written by Post that matched the Zodiac's style. But the FBI said the case was still open and there was no confirmed link between Post and the crimes. So once again, the trail went cold. The victims, remembering the lost. In all the mystery, it's important not to forget the real people behind the headlines. Zodiac took lives, often young people just beginning their futures. Let's remember. Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday, high school sweethearts. Darlene Farron, a waitress and loving mother. Cecilia Shepard, a bright college student. Paul Stein, a cab driver simply doing his job. Others survived but carried scars forever, like Brian Hartnell and Michael Mageau. What kind of person was the Zodiac? He was organized, not chaotic. He was strategic, not sloppy. He didn't kill for money, revenge, or passion. He killed to create fear. He wanted to be seen, but never caught. He studied people. He read the newspapers, he watched the police, and every time they got close, he slipped away, like smoke, like a ghost. More than 5 decades have passed, and still the Zodiac killer remains unnamed. But while his voice has gone silent, his shadow never left. It lurks on forums, in police files, in TV specials, and in the nightmares of those who came too close. This is not just a mystery anymore. This is an obsession. The cold case never truly went cold. Though Zodiac's confirmed killings stopped in the early 1970s, police never gave up. The case remained open in San Francisco, Napa County, Solano County, and with the FBI. Detectives passed files down through generations. The case boxes grew thicker, technology changed, and with it, so did hope. The rise of the web sleuths. In the early 2000s, the Zodiac case found new life online. People from all over the world, writers, cryptographers, coders, and retired cops, began investigating from their homes. They studied old letters, zoomed in on grainy crime scene photos. They debated every suspect, every letter, every timeline. Websites like zodiackiller.com and zodiackillersite.com became digital battlegrounds. There were heated arguments. Some people spent years trying to solve the unsolved ciphers, even creating computer programs to test thousands of possibilities. In 2020, an international team of amateur code breakers solved the Zodiac's 340 cipher after over 50 years. The message didn't give a name, but it did prove something chilling. Zodiac was real. He wasn't just some twisted hoax. He had been watching, waiting. New DNA tech. The Golden Hope. In 2018, something incredible happened. California police caught the Golden State Killer, another serial predator who had also gone uncaught for decades, using genetic genealogy. By uploading DNA from old crime scenes to public ancestry databases, investigators were able to trace the suspect's family tree and find him. This method offered hope for Zodiac's case too. Could his saliva on an old stamp or envelope finally reveal the truth? Some Zodiac letters were tested, but the DNA found was often too degraded, or possibly not from the killer, since some letters may have been handled by multiple people. Still, this breakthrough gave everyone renewed faith. If science could catch one ghost, maybe it could catch another. The Case Breakers and Gary Francis Post. In 2021, a private group of retired detectives and military investigators, calling themselves the Case Breakers, came forward. They said they had identified Zodiac as a man named Gary Francis Post, a deceased house painter and veteran who lived in California. They pointed to facial scars that matched police sketches, a hidden code they believed revealed his name, former acquaintances who claimed he had confessed, and similar handwriting. But there was a problem. The FBI and police said the evidence wasn't strong enough. There was no DNA match, and many experts disagreed with the group's decoding of Zodiac's letters. So again, no arrest, no closure, just another name fading into the fog. The public's obsession. From clues to culture, the Zodiac case became more than a crime story. It became part of American culture. Every few years, a new theory surfaces, a new suspect, a new breakthrough, Books, documentaries, and podcasts revisit the case constantly, each one hoping to say something others missed. But why does this case keep pulling us back? Maybe it's because it has everything: a faceless villain, uncracked codes, letters full of arrogance, and a string of real victims, with no satisfying ending. It feels like a horror film that never showed the monster's face and never gave us a final scene. How the Zodiac changed investigations. Zodiac didn't just terrorize people, he changed how police investigate serial killers. Before him, the idea of a killer taunting police through newspapers was almost unheard of. He forced law enforcement to collaborate across counties, work with linguists and code experts, engage with media, and develop early criminal profiling. In fact, some of the Zodiac letters were used in the first ever FBI behavioral profiles. The killer may have seen himself as smarter than the system, but in chasing him, the system became smarter. Who the Zodiac might have been based on FBI psychological profiles and behavioral studies. Here's what experts believe about Zodiac. White male, born between 1935 to 1945, possibly had military training due to weapon handling and coded writing, likely had experience with printing or technical work, intelligent but lacked social connection, craved control, fear, and mystery. He may have been someone you'd never suspect, quiet, polite, blending in. He didn't kill for revenge or pleasure, he killed for immortality, to be remembered, and sadly, he succeeded. He had accomplices, maybe multiple people shared the name. The shadow that stays Zodiac is no longer just a criminal. He's become a symbol of everything we fear about evil hiding in plain sight. The idea that someone can kill and vanish, that justice can fail, that secrets can remain buried forever. His story is filled with terror, but also obsession. And in some strange way, that's exactly what he wanted. So now, more than 50 years later, the murders are over. The letters have stopped. The trails are cold. But the legend, the fear, the curiosity, it still burns. Because he never got caught. Because he could have been anyone. Because he might be watching this video right now. This was the story of the Zodiac Killer, a man who turned murder into a riddle and disappeared into history without ever saying his real name. Thank you for watching. If you found this documentary gripping, drop a like, subscribe, and comment below. Do you think Zodiac was ever identified, but we just missed the signs? And remember, sometimes the scariest monsters aren't the ones you see, they're the ones you never find.